The final session, the final countdown music we should have had for that session. I'm very excited and honored to be the closing moderator for this final session where we're going to look at the resources available to associations around the world from the associations of associations. And so I'm going to ask, like we've been doing today, taking our lead from yesterday, I'm going to ask each of the panelists to shortly introduce themselves, actually how long their association of associations has been in existence, and roughly how many members that they have, so you can get an idea of the experience and the size of everybody. My apologies, I've got my back to you over there. Okay, so Debra, let's start with you.
Sure, I'm Debra BenAvram. I'm on the board of directors of the American Society of Association Executives, which has been in existence since 1920. We're almost at our centennial, which is very exciting. And we have approximately 39,000 members, which represents more than 7,300 organizations.
Wow, okay, fantastic. So a little bit of a contrast. Jeffers.
Thank you for your time, actually. My name is Miruka. I am the president of the African Society of Association Executives. We're headquartered in South Africa. We are barely 3 years old, actually. So when Debbie talks about 97, it's a bit like, oh, okay. So we're still growing our members. We have almost 200, and we believe that we'll continue growing our members. So it's really a baby.
A baby.
Yeah, trying to nurture it and grow it, actually.
Fantastic, thanks. And Florence.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Florence Mandel. I'm the head of the ASAE, which stands for the European Society of Association Executives. And it's an organization which is Brussels-based, so at the heart of Europe. We have across 200 individual members in the organization and exist since approximately 20 years.
Okay, fantastic, great. And Bobby, last but not least.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Octavio Peralta, but friends call me Bobby. I'm from the Philippines, and I actually wear two hats here. I represent the Philippine Council of Associations and Association Executives, that is an ASAE model, Association of Association in the Philippines. As well as 2 years ago, we've initiated a regional association of association, which is the Asia Pacific Federation of Association Organizations. When I talk about the national, our PCAE, we have currently about 280 members, representing almost the same number of associations in the Philippines. But we have 100,000 associations in the Philippines, so there's a long way to go. If Jeffers is a baby, we are a sort of a toddler. We're 4 years old.
Okay, fantastic, that's great. So part of this session, we want you to be thinking about, so I'm giving you some heads up, thinking about the resources and the questions and the help that you might be able to get from associations of associations. And Dubai Association Center chose not to be on the stage today because they also want to learn from the associations of associations from around the world, and they've already had perhaps some of that airtime. But this is a great opportunity for you to find out what's available globally. Let's start by asking each of you to just talk about, I said, what differentiates you back in the speaker room? I said, what differentiates you apart from geography? And interestingly, each association of association probably has a similar mission in a way, but they have different strengths. So what would be some of those strengths that you bring to your associations that maybe aren't necessarily common? And Debra, I'm going to ask you to go first.
Sure. I think ASAE has a number of strengths, I think, that support its success. One is research, and ASAE's ability to pull together benchmarking and really look at what drives the profession and then help its members use that information. And another key strength in the US is our government relations. I think our lobbying efforts really help support the association community at large and ensure that the government views us in a positive light and develops policies that support that tax as well.
Okay, fantastic. Jeffers?
In Africa, we have quite a big number of associations, but one key issue we see is that most of our associations don't really know what they're supposed to do. Our purpose as AFSAE is actually to bring them out of the hood So we are actually formed or built under education, which we want to offer to our members, advocacy, which we want to actually speak on behalf of our members, advisory services, and also networking. I think if we do this, we'll get the best out of Africa.
Okay. That sounds like a big challenge if you've got lots of associations.
It's a big challenge, but it's doable if you put your mind into it and if you really want to achieve those goals and objectives. I think nothing is impossible.
Okay, fantastic. Florence, what differentiates or what's the strength maybe that you bring from the European Association? And you were sharing that some of it's a little bit different perhaps than some of the other global associations.
Yes, what we do at European level, we bring the members together and we organize peer-to-peer sessions on specific topic of interest. And the way we do it, because we are maybe less important than the American Society, for instance. I mean, we bring together the members and they propose topics for their own interest in order to develop, for instance, best practices in some key areas. At the same time, we looked also at education, as other associations just mentioned, and we did a partnership with Solvay Business School, an management master for association leaders. And on the other hand, we are very lucky to be in Brussels and be very much supported by the city of Brussels, which is present here, as well as some of the previous board members of the ASAE in this community today.
Okay, fantastic. Bobby, what differentiates or what's your key strength out there in Asia and in the Philippines to help associations?
Yeah, thank you. Two things actually. Aside from what my co-panelists mentioned, two things. First is we saw the need that associations are put together in one platform so they can share experiences, learn from each other, grow from each other, and celebrate. The second thing is actually, associations give awards to members, but nobody gives awards to associations. So in the case of the Philippines, we thought that many associations do a lot of good things, but they're not being communicated, like Susan mentioned about associations matter. So I think the awards is something that is a platform not only for learning, but to tell government, to tell the audience that, hey, associations exist, and they do matter.
I like that. It's so often that we're helping people solve challenges and problems, but not actually celebrate and
Yes.
share successes and highlight those to a certain extent. We identified back in the speaker room 3 big challenges, because if I asked them what the challenges are, we all decided they'd probably come down to a handful of things. So we're going to talk about those 3, but in a moment I'm going to ask you also on your tables to be thinking about what are the challenges that you want to put to here. How can associations of associations help you with your biggest challenges in the roles that you play as leaders of associations? So I'm going to put the first one. We decided, kind of like the one that bubbled to the surface to begin with, that hasn't yet been covered, we haven't heard about, was about how do associations of associations, you don't know which one I'm going to say, do you, help you generate income or flow of funds? Because that's actually one of the biggest challenges that associations have. How can you help with that? And let's go to Bobby first. What are some of the things that you're doing that might help your associations in your region either get more funds or better spend funds or figure out how to manage with no funds?
If you allow me, Hazel, to talk about at least 3 resources that a successful, sustainable association should need. The first is people, and I think we've talked about, Martin mentioned yesterday about your association is only as good as your passionate members. So include governance, include your board directors, include the management, then you have people power. Second important resource would be collaboration. We've listened yesterday about the thing about working together and so on. So I think there's value for collaboration. And number 2 resource, I would say, is the power of collaboration. And number 3 would be in the area of, let me get my notes, revenues. And that's where I'm coming to your answer, that while in John Peacock's panel yesterday, we heard that although associations are non-profit or not-for-profit organizations, they do need to have financial resources. And that means that they have to be creative, especially during economic downturns and so-called rainy days. So I have a sort of a formula. Before I became an association executive, I have a college degree in engineering. I became a development banker, and now I'm association executive. So I have a formula. I would say that people power plus power of collaboration equals financial power, plus good governance and effective management equals sustainable associations.
Okay, interesting, fantastic. And Jeff, as you had some ideas back there you could add to that about what you could do perhaps to give access to technology or to help leverage how people spend their funds to drive an association?
We actually all know in this room that technology is power nowadays. Without investing in technology and systems, we absolutely won't really do much to support our organizations. Not necessarily associations, but most of organizations. And non-profit organizations, where associations normally fall, has actually an upper hand, especially using modern technological tools. How many of us know what Google for non-profits can do for associations? It's really, for example, G Suite for Gmail and also AdWords. There's so many others that Google can help you. So if you really want to know how Google can partner with you, not to give you funds directly, but actually to give you tools and facilities to make sure that you manage your associations very well. That's a system. How many of us know what Salesforce Foundation does? It's a big management tool that we can actually use to run our associations. Crowdfunding. How many of us know what crowdfunding is? Probably we do know about it. So these are some of the technological tools that we can actually put in place as associations to help us save the money we spend on probably purchasing very expensive association management systems. And with this, I'm sure we can leverage technology to really serve our associations.
Let me just get those names right. You called it Salesforce Foundation?
Salesforce Foundation, Google for Nonprofits.
Google for Nonprofits?
Yes, crowdfunding,
and
which
crowdfunding.
most of us know, yeah. And there are many, many more other tools actually if you go online. The only thing is you need somebody probably with tech savvy to do the research and give you the tools, and then you probably realize you're saving much more money than you're spending.
Great, so that's where we bring in the 16 and 15-year-olds to come in and
yes,
help us understand,
definitely.
or maybe even the 5-year-olds to help us come in and understand how we do that from a youth perspective. In Europe, what are you doing to help associations with fee income or with managing funds or increasing funds?
Yes, I will complement what Bobby and Jeffrey just mentioned. I mean, I can only agree with everything that has been mentioned so far. However, I think when you have very low resources at the start, you have to think maybe aside, meaning that what the objective is to deliver value for your members. And you can do it two ways, either by offering a membership fees paying service, or you can look also at offering free services. And how do you, manage to offer free services? Then you look at partnership in order to increase the value for your members. So this is one area that we are actually currently exploring. In addition to that, we mentioned education, we mentioned, of course, the events and the meeting industry. Everyone is well knowledgeable. In Brussels, ASAE is represented by a lot of trade associations. So one of the areas also to give value for the members is to engage in advocacy as well and propose some best practices. I think in addition to that, and we are very lucky, we have the support of the city of Visit Brussels, which is present today, which is for us, I think, very important in terms of positioning and development. And along to what Jeffrey said, I think look at innovation and communication tools. I think associations don't always have the time to share that expertise, so if we can offer them a platform and, on a personal level, I developed recently an application to serve the members. We had a session about innovation yesterday. How can we help, the members leverage on the innovation that all the others do? That is, probably.
Absolutely. So you're that conduit to get that message out where that innovation's happening. Deborah, anything to add in areas that you're helping? You've got obviously maybe the might of ASAE behind you. So how are you helping?
Sure. I think ASAE does recognize that they're well positioned to help members in, I think, a unique way but that many of us can do even in our own associations in terms of serving as an incubator. So where we're the Association of Associations, we can be the testing ground for things that our members might not be able to take risks on. Give you an example, ASAE had a meeting that was a very traditional style meeting, and they decided to create a new meeting experience, a new event experience. That's something that many of our member associations would not be able to take the risk to do, to just completely change how you were delivering content to your members. Instead, ASAE was able to do that, took the learnings, brought it back to the membership, and now the membership can use those learnings to drive revenue in their own organizations, as well as be careful not to make some of the same mistakes that were made. Everyone is supportive of that, knowing that that idea of piloting and taking risks is something that's the role of ASAE for its members. And I think that that was a very successful approach to helping ASAE members create new revenue streams.
Okay, great. So you're creating those experiments, you're putting those things out there, and everybody can learn from that experience. I'm going to ask you to split and talk either about leadership or data, and then we're going to go to the audience to have a quick conversation around what they think some of the challenges are. So what are you doing that either helps associations in your Association of Associations improve leadership? Because we said that was the other big problem. How do you get great leaders that are going to be sticky, that maybe hang around for a while, that really take associations to the next level? Or how do you help them with the data, which we say is one of our biggest problems? There's so much of it around there. How do you manage the data? So cherry pick one or either or in your reply. And Florence, let's start with you.
Okay, thank you very much. For the leadership aspect, it's true that what we observe within ASAE's membership right now is there is much more demand to run association like a business. Why? First, because some of the leaders maybe of association come from the industry,
right?
So they have the experience of it, and therefore they raise a little bit the standard. Second, board of directors are more demanding. I mean, in some association you have a very professional board, and the standards, you know, in Europe are increasing in that aspect, so they are expecting you to react that way. So I think, you know, the answer to that is indeed the partnership that we've done with Solvay Business School in order to provide kind of general education in every different areas in which a leader should be active. But I think on the other hand that you need to have people wanted to take this position.
Yeah,
you know, it's not only about providing, you know, the grounds, then you need to identify them and make them raise to that level.
How do you do that? How do you create this desire for people to want to take that leadership role?
You know, I don't know if I can really answer that question. It's a very difficult one because to have the desire is a little bit based on every individual. However, I think that creating the environment indeed in a community can help show how to overcome challenges of leadership. And I think that ultimately by having conversation and discussion with peers, you can see that everyone is facing, you know, the same problems, but that there is always a solution.
Great, so you don't feel alone. Part of the role of Association of Associations is to create that sense of community. You're not alone in doing this. Jeff, as data or leadership, which one are you going to pick as what you're doing in Africa to help?
Let me speak about leadership. Actually, when we talk about leadership, it gravitates between governance and stewardship. It also gravitates around ethics and professionalism. And if you really want to make a difference in your association or in any leadership position, you must show that you are a leader who can actually influence decisions. Recently, I read the book from the ASAE, The 7 Measures of Success, and it actually talks a lot about leadership. It's through leadership that you can identify, most likely, better leaders to take after you, because you're not going to be there forever. And it's through leadership that you can actually help the association to grow. You can, if you can, you're a strong leader, you can go out there, meet probably people, speak to them about your organization or your association. Then they'll start having some thoughts about probably what you're doing, they'll create, let me say, interest. And if they create interest, you create a linkage. When you create a linkage, possibly you will start actually harvesting the benefits.
In Africa, do you have a lot of people that are passionate about making the difference and education is the gap? Or are you also needing to try and, the education's there, but you've got to try and inspire them to want to come in and participate in the associations?
We have quite a number of people who really have passion on education, and one thing we've seen since AfSAE was or maybe founded is that people are hungry to learn. And that is why when I was talking to Debra and Susan, we're now collaborating with the American Society of Association Executives to offer actually the CAE credentials to our members, and it's starting next year in February. So once we know, we start offering the education and then they feel empowered, then we'll actually have a better way of managing our associations.
Okay, fantastic. Bobby, helping on data or leadership? I'm noticing leadership seems to be winning over data.
Yeah,
so.
I'll take leadership again. Well, actually,
Deborah, you've got no choice.
I'll take data.
they're a big sister. Actually, when we started the Philippine National Association of Association, we were focusing on the association executive, only to find out that the word association executive is not known in the Philippines. So when I asked them, who among the crowd, there were 200 people said, who amongst you used the title association executive? Only one raised her hand, because she and I are a member of the American Society of Association Executives. So a year later, we found out that 8 out of 10 associations in the Philippines are run by volunteer board of directors. So we thought that maybe let's also include the board. So our mission now covers 2 stakeholders. One is to improve board governance, which is directly to the board of trustees in our case, as well as the association management for association executives. So now we have like a hybrid organization. Our members could be association or association professionals. So now we provide, we have a credentialing program. It's patterned under CAE, which I wear this one. So this is the Certified Professional Association Executive. And we have a board governance seminar for board of directors. So that's where leadership, because when you talk about leadership, you talk about 2 levels, the board leadership and the management leadership.
Okay, fantastic. Deborah, you've got a choice of leadership or data.
I wonder which one Hazel would like me to take. I will take data. I think it's one of ASAE's strengths. Leadership is very important. I think my colleagues have covered some great information on that topic. One of the things I think that ASAE does very well is collect data and information and research and deliver it back to the members so that we have that to use in our own associations in a way that we would not be able to gather on our own. The 7 Measures of Success is such a great example, Jeff, because that book, which if you haven't seen it, it's based on Good to Great by Jim Collins and is a focused piece for associations, but that was based on research done, what differentiates an association, what makes one great versus just merely good. And that, I think, sparked a lot of really interesting conversations among association professionals around the world as a result of the research that went into that. Currently, ASAE is working on something called Foresight Works, which is looking at the key trends that are impacting all of us and our associations, the association members that are members of the associations of associations. And what do we need to do with that? Of course, data from big data is a big consideration there. Those are the types of environmental scanning that individual member associations can't always do on their own, but that ASAE can provide that information as well as forums on those topics to then help all of us in our work, in our day jobs, figure out what we need to do with that information. There are a number of examples I could give, but I think that the power of that helps all of us start from a level playing field, that benchmarking that really helps each of us understand what's happening outside the walls of our office, whether it's a virtual office or a physical one, to really know what our colleagues are doing, how our colleagues are running their associations, and what are those best practices that we need to bring home as members of ASAE.
Okay, great. So we have got up on stage, you know, Asia, Europe, Africa, America represented, and down on the table down here we have the Middle East represented with the DAC Council sitting right in front of us. You are associations from across the world. I'm going to give you 3 minutes on your tables, because actually putting hands up in this room, you've got better today, by the way, but I want you to actually come up with a table question for one of these countries, okay? So if you've got all these people, these resources available, you represent associations or your advisors to associations, what questions do you want to ask about the tools, resources, skills, availability, help that you could get from the associations? Actually, 3 minutes on your table to come up with a table question for anyone on stage or sitting down in the front. Go, and you can also come up with a table question, DACT. Okay, go, 3 minutes. Do we have some good questions for our panelists? I saw a great question being worded down there by the lady over there. So I'm going to ask a mic runner to come. And please let us know where you're from and who your question is directed to.
My name is Nawal. I'm from the Middle East North Africa Leisure and Attraction Council. We're very new into the world of association. We've been active only for 1 year. So our question in this table would be to Bobby and Jeffers, since you are also like our older brothers. If you could help us with some tips to basically motivate our board members or our members in general to be more and more involved in what we're trying to achieve. Like, okay, they came together and we set up and everything, but at one point you feel like you have to keep on pushing, like it's not coming from within. Like you have to keep on igniting them every now and then. Thank you.
Okay. See, you said don't be too hard. I thought I won't be too hard. I'll just ask the audience to be hard. Bobby, what are your tips and ideas on how you can ignite that after starting?
Tough question. That's also a struggle for me when we started the Association of Association in the Philippines. But first, actually, is to have a very good board. I mean, meaning that you have to select people who are recognized in your area, because in the Philippines, for example, you know, the first question that perhaps a member would ask is, who are in the board? Who are these people? You know, right. So it's important that you have to build integrity and credibility. So you attract you know, similar-minded individuals or members. So credibility, integrity is first and foremost important to attract members to be involved. Second is, I think you should be able to demonstrate that they are important. As you know, members, they would participate, they will engage you in other activities if they feel that they are also engaged and they are given recognition and importance. Third, I think, again, in our case, in the Philippines, just like what's happening in the Association of Associations in other countries, we are supported by the Philippine Tourism Promotions Board. In some cases, in Malaysia, for example, they just recently set up the Malaysian Society of Association Executive, and they're being helped by the Malaysian Convention and Exhibition Bureau. So it helps. You know, you have to have somebody or an institution at your back, so that people will say, okay, this is it's not a fly-by-night sort of organization and so on. So very important to be able to have that credibility.
Okay.
I guess
Fantastic.
that I'll stop here for.
Brilliant. Jeffers, anything to add?
Okay, you know, you don't wake up in the morning and say, I want to form an association. There is always a process, isn't it? What process did these people go through to have this association formed? There is always registration, there's always something. So you need to ask those people, if you have this association, you have a mission, isn't it? You have a vision, isn't it? You have the goals, isn't it? What are you doing as an association, maybe as a leader of that association, actually to execute this mandate, the mission, the vision, and the objectives? If they answer that question, then you can tell them, okay, if you're able to answer to this, then there's a linkage. We can link you to people globally, which are the resources we're talking about, which are available to also help us where we are not able to really meet our expectations. Let me give you an example. We have the WhatsApp groups, isn't it? A WhatsApp group as an administrator, 1 or 2 administrators.
Jeffers, just go a little slower. I'm really good at understanding the South African accent.
Thank you.
But a little slower for us.
Thank you. So what I was saying, we have so many WhatsApp groups. I'm sure almost all of us belong to a WhatsApp group, isn't it?
WhatsApp group.
Yeah,
Okay,
WhatsApp.
I've just got it.
So
Okay.
there is an administrator of this WhatsApp group, isn't it, who can actually add and remove anybody, isn't it? So if you belong, if you're a WhatsApp administrator, then you know the reason why you formed this grouping, isn't it?
Okay.
That WhatsApp group, actually, it's an association, isn't it? Because you decided to form it because you wanted to actually share information which you believe can circulate well within your membership. The leader of, in case of anything, the leader of that WhatsApp group will be held liable, the administrator. So these people who are leading these associations, which are more or less a bit dormant, they need to actually rethink the whole idea of coming up with this and know that they can actually do more than probably waiting for help. There is no help which is going to come to you if you are not active. There is nobody who will ever recognize that you exist if you are not active. There is nobody who will come and tell you, oh, you know you have this, we know you have this and we want to assist you. No, 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 no. It's you to actually take the initiative and drive the car.
Great. So it's like going back to what was the purpose, what was the reason why they joined in the first place, what was their ambition. Maybe we need to go back to what Greg was teaching us yesterday and get back to the core of, you know, what's it all about so that they can maybe stay passionately involved. Remind them of that, yeah. Fantastic. Okay, other questions from tables? Fantastic. Look at, brilliant. Thank you, sir.
Yes, hello, I'm Remy from Boardroom Magazine. I was wondering, obviously, you're all based in different parts of the world, so how much, in what ways do you think being, let's say, from an emerging country actually impacts what you do, impacts your vision and your mission as an organization?
Okay, so is there a difference between an emerging country association of associations versus perhaps more established? Let's ask all the panelists to answer that. Yeah, that's great, fantastic. And by the way, it's press, so be careful. Yeah, in your magazine. Yeah,
It is.
yeah, got it.
No, Bobby.
No, you. Okay, Florence, fantastic.
Okay. I'm not so much experienced with the emerging markets,
Yeah.
but I can maybe...
From an established market.
From an established one, I can maybe identify challenges that European Association might have right now at the moment, and there are first, competition. We have more and more associations dealing with the same topics, representing interest and gathering, similar members. So this is a challenge. Why? Because it's difficult to remain relevant. You need to reconsider that, and probably what we do then is to develop new services or look at other ways of bringing value to the members. And I think probably this is,
Yeah, so that competition you were talking about, that there's more and more associations that they can belong to, is one of the challenges of an established market. Jeffers or Bobby, who wants to go on what the challenges are of an emerging market?
I think I speak from the emerging markets, that's in Africa, and one thing we've always tried to encourage is competition. when I talk about competition, I mean cooperation plus competition. It brings competition. You're not probably trying to achieve a similar goal. You have to collaborate. It's the power of collaboration. Come together, see how you can bring together your resources, your strengths, and also address your weaknesses and see the opportunities which are there. I think in the matching markets, that is our main goal, to actually bring about what we call competition.
Okay, competition. So collaboration and competition brought together so that they're helping each other. Bobby?
I was in Myanmar 2 weeks ago, and the reason I'm telling the story about Myanmar is because they just opened up recently, right? So it's an emerging market like in the Philippines. So the lesson I learned there is that I was asking, what was the difference in an emerging economy like that? And his answer was, we have the last mover advantage. So meaning that for us in the emerging economies, it would be good for us because it's easy to, since we are the last mover, we can replicate, we can copy, we can, not copy, maybe not, be able to learn from the experience of the developed economy. So I think it's good for emerging countries like the Philippines to leapfrog, especially from the point of view of creating an association of associations.
Great. So you've got like a bit of a crystal ball if you look to what's actually been happening in ASAE and in Europe to be able to map out what you should be doing and hopefully jump ahead. So we appreciate that. Great question. Anything more to add? Covered? Yeah?
Yeah, I would just agree with what Florence said. I think that even ASAE, while well established, is constantly needing to ensure that it's maintaining relevance to its members and reinventing how we deliver what we deliver. And it doesn't become easier, I don't think. The problem is just continues to evolve, exactly.
Okay, which other table before being picked has got a table question? Fantastic, thank you. Brilliant.
I'm cheating Hazel as we have a table comment and congratulations, and I just wanted to say that as a member, as Associations Forum is a member of the Asia Pacific Federation of Association Organisations, that each of the roles of these 4 organisations and other ones like is really very, very important for the sector. People need role models and people need to see that there are other groups. And I know that with my experience and the wonderful work that Bobby's done in forming the Asia Pacific group, Jeff has recently as well in Africa, it's really going to make a big difference in time. And the image and the symbolism is going to go even further than the small steps that we're all making bit by bit, because people are going to want to see it. And the Malaysian society's just started up. There's perhaps talk about a Japanese society. So I just wanted to say on behalf of our table that we just think it's very exciting what these organisations are doing. ASAE is of course our legendary organisation, but it's sparked, it's been very, very supportive through the leadership of ASAE over a period of time to encourage all of the other organisations. So we thank everyone for their great work. It's really important for the association's world. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bobby. Your response.
Thank you, John, for reminding me that, because I was talking about the Philippine experience. But yes, ASAE has been instrumental. They are our role model in creating the Asia Pacific Federation of Association Organization. So these are national association of associations too in Australia. John's Association Forum. You have the Australasian Society of Association Executive, the Philippine Council, which I represent, and then you have the Korean Society of Association Executive. Now you have the Malaysian and the Japanese, Singapore, Thailand, and what else? They are thinking of coming up with association of. So these are exciting times for associations in Asia.
And how does that, where does that go, Bobby, eventually? We're talking about everybody going global. Okay? And that more and more access to the knowledge and everything that you want. And, back in the speaker room, you were talking about that you are interested in having members that are from outside America, whereas Europe tends to look very much within its borders. All these associations of associations from different countries and then overlying bodies. Does it ultimately end up that it needs to merge, or is there enough differentiation in each of those cultures, in each of those areas, that allows you to have multiple duplicates of that? Yep. You were the one that's got the Philippines and Singapore and Japan and Korea. And
Again, it's a story. I'll answer that with a story. You know, I have a friend from Bhutan. And my friend, we always meet together in conferences. And he said, you know, Bobby, do you believe in destiny? The reason why we're meeting every now and then is because we have a purpose. And I think some of you are, very familiar. We meet in many other conventions and meetings. And said, okay, I think, we have already 5 here continents, Africa, North America, Europe, Asia Pacific. There are only 2 missing, South America and Antarctica. So what I'm saying is, eventually, it could be a global alliance of association of associations. I think that would be a great idea.
Okay. So how are you all collaborating then? Because you're saying to me, you aren't competing, you are collaborating. Maybe, Debra, how do you see the collaboration working? And then I'll jump to Florence.
I think some of that can be in very formal ways through partnerships and alliances on key topics, and some of that can be in more informal ways in the way that we share information and ensure that we're establishing our programs and services to support the cooperation and collaboration and less so competition. For example, ASAE has started to do some programs such as its CEO Symposium, which is a board governance workshop for executives and board leaders to come together, and that has been US-centric and US held, and now is going to be abroad for the first time in 2018. So things like that help bring not only ASAE's information to other places, but encourage the collaboration where ASAE members can learn together with European members or with Asia Pacific members for conferences like the Great Ideas Asia Pacific that has been held by ASAE and the Asian Pacific Society. So lots of opportunities for collaboration, and I think some of it is a lens. It's how we approach the work that we do in the field to think of ourselves as partners in advancing the profession, which is really what we're all here for.
Okay, fantastic. Florence, how do you see, you guys are the most established association of associations, and so everybody's looking to you to lead by example. So what are you doing in Europe?
I think maybe just to complement what Debra just mentioned, indeed we can take advantage of what each other do and what are the best practices and leverage on that for the benefits of the member. I think most association members of ASAE are international, most of them based in Brussels so far, either by law international but also by activities. Mm-hmm. So they operate beyond Europe. And we believe it's important to share experience, the common views and the commonalities, and perhaps, take advantage of the momentum. Now it's the right moment to think about and to come back to the comment that Bobby just made, thinking about establishing an international association of association executive in Brussels. Naturally, I think this is the place of dialogue, compromise, understanding of different cultures. We are in between Asia, Africa, and the US. We have many examples. We have the Federation of Association of International Association based in Belgium. We have the UEA as well. Not only talking about ICA, which is in The Hague, and many others. So this is maybe time to start a reflection and establish a framework where we all can discuss together for the benefits of our members.
It's interesting. So we're going to have an association of the associations of the associations. We might have to think of some other way of labeling it at some point for those people on the outside. Any other table questions? There must be one. Oh, that was a stretch. You be very, very careful when you stretch at the yawn moment where your hand moves up from that perspective. There must have been a question from this super smart table at the front here. Because it's dominated by women. I'm sorry, I'm going to be sexist. Was it your question? Yeah, okay.
This question is for the developing organization. So in delivering content to your members, besides face-to-face channels, besides meetings, how else are you delivering content? Because a lot of associations struggle trying to be on all platforms, from all the social media groups to podcasts to everything. So what are you seeing specifically in your developing regions?
Great question, Michelle. Who would like to go? Bobby, fantastic.
Yeah, what we do in the Association of Associations in the Philippines and even in Asia Pacific is to curate the information that are available elsewhere. So we pick it up from ASAE, ESAE, there's a lot of information on associations around the world and PCMA. Most also associations like ICA, PCMA, they have association day and they have associations program as well. IMEX also has. So what we do is we pick up all this information, we curate it, and then we put it in online newsletter and we send it to our members. So we have now we have a magazine. We have at least 3 e-newsletter, one on governance, one on association management, and the rest would be other ideas. It could be how to have a successful event, how to let's say brand your association. So, and then we also relate with other publications and with other we partner with media and so on. So we make some voices, we make some information out there, and that's we pass it around our members.
Fantastic. How else? What other platforms are you using? So everybody's doing meetings. What's the most successful platform that you've found that's helping communicate that your members are gravitating towards?
Sure. With ASAE, as a member of ASAE, my favorite platform is Collaborate, which is the online community with lots of different groups segmented by interest area. Members can create their own groups if they're interested in that. Personally, as a member of ASAE, that's the thing I probably use the most on a day-to-day basis. When I need something, I can toss out a question and get that question answered. As well as for my staff, I can refer them to that. Even though I might not be able to afford to send everyone to Dubai to this meeting, I certainly can have them all go on to Collaborate to toss out a question. And the community on that platform, I think, is actually quite strong. And people meet at face-to-face events that have been talking all year long, a variety of topics, sometimes requesting a sample of something, sometimes exploring a concept, and some people are lurkers, like any online community, and that's okay. But I think it's very, very valuable, and the community is so generous with one another that it makes it really a worthwhile spot to spend some time each day.
Okay. Other successful platforms?
I think from my perspective, we always say content is the king, and the only way you can actually retain your members or attract new members is through having something which can actually make them renew their membership, or probably by word of mouth, let other people join your organization. So I couldn't agree more to Debbie and Bobby, especially in terms of the way we curate information and probably share it with our members through communities and through specific channels, because that is the only way members can actually have relevant information which is coming from a credible source. And Susan mentioned about credibility of a source of information in yesterday's presentation. So that is one of the key things we are still trying to put together, and we know we have a long way home, but we will get there, and we do believe once we have that accomplished, then our members will have a lot of information. The content which we intend to push out there will be able to reach them in a way that they can actually know this is from a credible source.
Okay, great. Let's go to our closing comments from each of you on what past experiences or past mistakes might have been made that you think you could either share where they were positive, maybe they didn't work, that you can help associations leapfrog. We talked about the crystal ball that that Europe and America give us, but maybe some specific examples where you could help people leapfrog and grow to the next level as associations from your experience of the Association of Associations. Deborah?
Sure.
They're all looking. Go.
I'm just waiting to be called on.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
You're in charge. I think that every organization has failures, and they're really opportunities to learn and grow. And we talked earlier about being incubators. For ASAE, I think most recently, one of the challenging experiences that has proven to be an interesting opportunity for learning is the new membership model that ASAE has rolled out. We were an individual membership organization, and in the last perhaps 18 months, I'm looking at Susan because I'm probably getting my date. In the last 2 years, that information magically arrived in my brain. That was amazing. Thank you, Susan. Has rolled out an organizational membership model where an organization can join and everyone on the staff becomes a member. The logistics around that and the way that was delivered to members, again, I think proved to be an incubator opportunity to really, it was successful in the metrics, but not rolled out as smoothly perhaps as ASAE would have liked. And that's okay, because it gave an opportunity for the organization to not only learn, but also to show its members that we're learning from what you're telling us, we're learning from what we experience, and now you as an association, when you want to shift your membership model as a member of ASAE, you can take those learnings and leapfrog yourself forward, and you can see here's how you can adjust, here's where you can start from a place that was further along than where ASAE started with that. And I think that's a really important role for ASAE to serve for its members. I'm really proud of how ASAE has managed that process.
Great, and I'm assuming that the other Association of Associations can learn from you
as
well as to what worked and what didn't work.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. What can you say, Jeff, as to help people leapfrog to the next level, locally, globally?
I think when you're a child, you're allowed to make many mistakes as you grow up, and actually a parent normally ignores that. We are very young. We are learning from not the mistakes we've been making, but I think the mistakes others are making. So we try to look at what they've done and probably think about a different way of doing it. And we're doing this actually through the courtesy of quite some important help from Greg Talley. He is our management advisor. Talley Management Group is really working with us. Ika is also working with us along the way to make sure that we move in a better shape. ASAE, they're now working with us, and some other organizations like the South African National Convention Bureau. So what we've realized and what we have on the table is this particular organization has made this type of mistakes when they were growing up. So let's try to avoid it and follow the path of success.
So basically, there's lots of experience in the room that can help you learn from that experience and wisdom and not make the same mistakes. You just got to reach out and ask for the right help. Florence?
I don't look at things like mistakes, actually. So for me, it's difficult. I rather look at a change in strategy or directions.
Sure.
You know, I mean, you have to be able to change and readjust, and we discussed this a little bit when we were preparing. And therefore, I think, you know, listening to your peers. I mean, we looked at, you know, ourselves from our own perspective, from the board and the membership perspective, but how do others see ourselves? And sometimes you can have interesting conversation about, you know, what they, you know, believe or advise what you could do that sometimes you don't see as opportunities. So one advice will be, you know, to discuss, you know, on how others look at yourself. Now, coming back to one of the challenge about board leadership, you know, I mean, which is something that we face as well at ASAE, you know, but also in my previous organization. It was simply as it is that you need to have a good, you know, board leadership in order to grow your organization. And if it's difficult, you know, to bring the board together, you know, what we did was a kind of code of conduct where we all agree, the 10 key points on how we are going to collaborate with each other. Because if you have volunteer board members, people from abroad, even organizing a call can be a challenge, and some board members might not feel comfortable because the timing is not the right one. So this seems a little bit, very simple, but sometimes it's good to sit down and think about how are we going to operate together. This is really the basis of the next step. And don't be afraid to try new things. And if you think you fail, I don't think you fail, you just go to the next level.
Learn something from it. Fantastic. Bobby, final thoughts from you.
Yeah, I mean, since Jeff's organization is a baby, mine is a toddler, I'll probably talk about children. When we were young, our teachers, our elders told us 3 R's, right? Reading, arithmetic, and writing, right? In association, there are also 3 R's that I gained from my experience: relevance, relationships, and resources. That's it.
Okay, great, fantastic. Well, it's been amazing learning from the Association of Associations. Might be an association of the associations of the associations by the time we meet you all again. And I look forward to continuing learning from all of you and you growing and helping this great community, I suppose, grow together. If you could put your hands together and thank the Association of the Associations. I'm going to ask